One of the things I love most about hosting this show is the opportunity to hear stories of how business owners evolve over time, both personally and professionally, the lessons they've learned, and the tips they share with you to help you be successful. Today, I'm celebrating the 500th episode of Biz Help For You, and we're going to look back at some of the content shared in the last 50 shows. Stay tuned to hear some of the insights my guests had for us recently.
Welcome to Biz Help For You, the show that saves you the expensive learning curve by providing advice from industry experts in every facet of the entrepreneurial journey. Too many small businesses collapse. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 20% fail within their first year, and less than 35% make it to their 10th anniversary. The goal of this podcast is to change that statistic. So if you're interested in learning more to be a successful entrepreneur, tune in today.
Welcome back to today's episode of Biz Help For You, where I'm looking back at some of the tips discussed in interviews with my guests in the last few months. I've selected some insights to share again that I thought were impactful. The first clip is from a discussion with Brandon Gano on understanding that knowing yourself is one of the most important things to running a successful business. And comprehending this benefits you by allowing you to run a more effective business. Let's listen in to hear what he says is the most important predictor of success. What is the biggest mistake that business owners are making that keep them stuck as operators instead of becoming true owners?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's the $1 million question, right? Everybody wants to know that, because we've all gotten ourselves to this place of, I had this idea, I started a business, whether you came from corporate or you're an entrepreneur your whole life. And at some point you find yourself stuck doing the work and not really growing the business. So I don't want to get lost in the conversation of working in your business versus on your business, because it's actually, I like to zoom out from there, and it's not that binary. So that's kind of an oversimplified model. But what I learned through my path is, I've been through two acquisitions. I have had a failed company, and at the core of all of those companies and all of my experience was me. And I didn't, in the beginning of my journey, really know who I was, not from a holistic or spiritual lens, but what am I really good at? What are the things I should be doing, and what are the things I shouldn't be doing? So when we zoom in on the entrepreneur themselves and say, what are you naturally gifted at? What are you designed to do? What are you maybe not designed to do? Let's focus on your sweet spot and then fill in the gaps around you. That, to me, is the biggest predictor of success in all of the businesses and clients that we've worked with, is identifying every member of the team, fitting them into a structure or building the structure around them that can support scalable growth, and then leveraging that for success and growth. So it's simple. It's not easy, but you have to start with the person at the core of the business.
In the next clip, Devin Sizemore explains what connection expansion is and how you can use it effectively in your business. If you've been taught when networking to talk about your ideal client and ask for referrals to them, tune in to hear why this is not the way to go when looking to grow your business. You mentioned you had created this connection expansion, and I would love for you to talk about, like, what is that really, and how would entrepreneurs use that to ask for referrals?
Yeah, so the first thing it does is it shifts the ask. And so let's start with the end of the question. So the first thing I think people do wrong when they're building connections or relationships is our ask is always around the target client or the prospective client, because that's what we're taught, right? Who's your ideal client profile? How do we ask for that? And that's what we're chasing. What happens in the referral world is if you say, hey, that's who I want to meet, you're asking the person across from you to then position you to sell to someone. And so a quote that I talk about is, everybody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold. And so with that in mind, we're already failing, right? We're asking for something so specific, but in a way that positions us to then have to sell someone, which creates all of this unnecessary friction in the relationship. And so if we shift the ask, it actually unlocks a whole lot of it. And by shifting the ask, what we mean is instead of saying, hey, I'm a realtor and I want to meet first-time home buyers, you would say, hey, I'm a realtor and I want to meet pest control companies or house cleaning companies or all these other things that have access to my ideal client.
Mm-hmm.
What happens there is there's no friction for being sold. It's a strategic introduction. And so you can get more of them, and the likelihood of booking a meeting goes up dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
But so often we're so focused on the short-term sale, we miss all of that other opportunity.
Next up is James Donovan, who educates us on local service Google ads and what appears when someone is searching for you, and how to handle calls when they reach out to you and they aren't the right fit. And why does he say to be ruthless? So I do know a lot of people. So you were saying you're focused really on CPAs and accounting and things like that too. And so a lot of us in the industry too, when someone reaches out, we have like a questionnaire first that we want to get some information, make sure like the service we offer are a great fit and they're, the right type of client for us too. Like if we don't do construction, we want to make sure they're not in construction or et cetera. Is there a way that they could actually have to submit that first, or no matter what, they're calling in and then you would have to kind of backtrack and say, well, normally we ask for this information. Can you fill this out? Like, how does that part work?
With local service ads, yeah, there's no way to filter, again, because it's all search based. So you can't, and there's no copy that goes into the ad. It's really just like your headshot, a tracking number that links back to your business, and it looks like your Google profile and it has your reviews. So on that front, it's very basic. Super impactful for the level of intent you get. But our suggestion with clients is if you're running local service ads, you need to be a little bit more open-minded of who you're looking to work with or who you can work with. If you're super strict on your niche, like you said, if it's just construction, probably not the best play to use local service ads, because you will get a variety of inbound calls from different types of business owners and or individuals. If you are open to other industries, by all means, it works really well. And then it's just a matter of asking those questions when someone calls in. So again, if you're only open to construction, I probably just wouldn't do it. If you're open to anything else, have your intake form ready. So someone calls in, hey, this is James. Thanks for reaching out to ABC Accounting. What can I help you with today? And as you start going through that, use your 20 to 30 seconds to try to qualify them first. Maybe it's, hey, is this for personal or business? And if you're not doing anything personal, sorry, we can't help. And you got to be ruthless and hang up. It sounds aggressive, but if you don't want to get charged, just hang up.
Right.
But after that, yeah, just walk them through that process. So you're going through the booking process, you're going through the discovery, start asking some of those questions, get their level of intent while you have them on the phone, get the call booked in. And now when you have your consultation, you have all the ammunition you need. You know where their pains are, so you can tap into that while you're on that next call, depending on what your sales process looks like.
What does it mean to move from operator to owner? In this clip, Pete Moore shares how you can step away from the business you started because you thought you'd have the freedom, but it's holding you down. The change to having more freedom starts with you as the leader. We think we're going to have freedom, right? And I know you're going to talk about, that we're going to talk about moving, from being that operator to the owner. So I would love for you maybe even to explain like how you are helping people understand the difference between that, because again, we start businesses, we think we're just going to work, just like we did in companies or things like that too, 9 to 5 or whatever. And usually that's not the case, right? So can you help them get out of being that operator and tell them how to do so?
Well, I can start off by saying it's not a quick process. It's not a flip of a switch. And I can also say that, I got back 2 weeks ago from a month sabbatical. So I live this. I mean, I was away for a month from my business, from Shootopia. Everything got done without me. I came back and I said, what do you need me to do? They said, nothing. We're good. We got it covered. And so, I find it hard to not live what I coach to. So I'm running businesses on a day-to-day basis that operate in this fashion. And, it really starts by understanding yourself as the leader and understanding what your accountabilities are. And from the value builder perspective, I know we're going to talk a little bit about value builder. There's 8 different categories in your business that we measure. And that one's called hub and spoke. Are you the hub and spoke of your business? And do all of the major clients go through you? Do all of the major decisions go through you? Does all the hiring and firing go through you? Does all the marketing go through you? Does all the operational decisions go through you? You know, all of these things, if they're all going through you, you are the hub and spoke of the business, which makes some business owners feel pretty special. It's like, oh yeah, I own this thing. And it's like, ooh, you know, bravado, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, it doesn't help create value in your business. It doesn't help create value in your family life. It doesn't help create value for your team. You may feel better, at least at the time, until you don't, when you're fed up and you're tired and you're saying, I don't even care anymore. Like to the point where I'm going to sell this business because I hate it so much, I don't want to do it. Right? We've all seen that too.
Next up is Marcey Rader, who explains what you can do to empower your team and delegate tasks to free up your time, and how, if they do make a mistake, it can actually build confidence in you and your employee. Let's listen in to hear how this is possible. So, Marcey, we know that entrepreneurs are generally the bottleneck in their business because everything does have to come to them, and they're answering all the questions and they're reading all the emails and all of the things. And I was talking just a few minutes ago about how I started to empower my own team too. So I'd love for you maybe to give a tip for someone who has no idea how to even begin to offload tasks from themselves onto staff. How can they empower their team to actually feel confident to take over those tasks and allow the entrepreneur to really delegate?
To start, I would give them ownership over something that it would be okay if it broke. So ownership means that they own it. They are in charge. It doesn't mean that you still have all this oversight over and you can micromanage it. So they have something that they absolutely own. And when I say if it got broken, it would be okay, not something that's super important to your business, but something that could give them confidence if they did succeed or they were able to own it and it worked well and things, that they would feel even more confident the next bigger thing that you gave them. And then you would also feel more confident, because if that thing did break, then you could also see how they went about fixing it. You could talk through, next time, let's maybe do this, or here would be the steps. And starting with something like that will build confidence for both of you.
Matthew Lesko discusses finding funds accessible to your business and how to get access to them. Whether you're a veteran, minority, and/or woman-owned or not, there are options available to you, even if you don't fall into a specific category. Check out alternatives in the community economy to find money offered based on your specific situation. Well, and I've heard for a lot of those, working with the government and getting those contracts, a lot of times they will prioritize those that are like women owned or minority owned or veteran owned, so do you have any advice to the entrepreneur who is just hearing this for the first time and is interested, but then they're thinking, well, maybe I won't qualify, or I won't have the, priority because maybe I'm a 50-50 owner with a spouse, or maybe I'm, not minority owned. Do you have any ideas?
I would say, don't worry about any of that, because that's only a sliver of what's out there. And if you're eligible for that, you do that, sure. But 90% is for anybody, no matter who you are. So a lot of people say that about minorities. It's that like, yeah, but wow, it's a very small portion of what the total. Right. So even if you are one of those categories, maybe go there first, but the big enchilada is out of there. I mean, I used to give talks at the Veterans Hospital up here, the war people who got beat up and started business. I said, okay, government programs are, important for vets, but we have so much more. The government gives out an average of $18,000 to every adult in the United States every year. And it's bigger this year than last year. And it'll be bigger next year. This is unfortunately how we're set up to do this. And everybody, and even the noise that Trump has, I mean, there'll probably be a little inconvenience here and there, but in the grand scheme of things, it won't change anything in the next couple of years. But it does change something 5-10 years from now, we get you change the I used to drive ships, and you change the aircraft carrier off 1 degree, man, in 3 days you're in a different continent than you thought you were. So it's important, but not for solving your problems today. You have to ignore it. When somebody says, oh, our budget was cut, you just go to another one. Like right now, you could go, there's another wonderful website. It's called findhelp.org. Findhelp.org. When you go to that website, see .org, the people who are in the what I call the community economy. So we have a community economy where we help each other. Okay, that's the community. Capitalism is, I'll help you if you give me money. The community from, we're here to help each other. So in the community economy, if you need to pay for something, go findhelp.org. Put in your zip code. Like in my zip code, there will be 5,000 or maybe 3,700, I forget now. But in there, 3,000 to 5,000 organizations in my zip code that give out money and help for free for almost anything. And it's not just a single person. It's like if you're looking for rent in my zip code, you put in, findhelp.org, put in your zip code, and then put in rent. You get 72 organizations that help people for rent. 72, not just 1 or 2 or whatever. So you got a shopping list. It's like marketing. It's like getting a job or anything. You have to start at the top and start asking, hey, do I qualify? And then if they say no, then can you suggest someone else that I may be able to be qualified for? So they all have separate little niches and things like that, but they're a gold mine of information because people in that work, even though they're not there to help you, are helping people like you with similar things. They work on that every day. They go to meetings, they go to conferences and everything. So they pick up intelligence about other stuff. Yeah. And they'll know better than anybody else you'll know.
Are you frustrated with staff complaining in your business? Tracy Austin shares that the issue is often people don't know how to make a request confidently, and also that they may be creating a story that isn't supported by facts. Here's more on the subject. I'm sure people who are listening are thinking, well, yes, I want to switch from people who are grumbling and complaining to having an excellent workplace culture. So I would love for you maybe just to dive in the first place. Why do you think complaining is such a common default in the workplace?
Absolutely. I believe we're taught to complain. We're not necessarily taught how to make a request and how to make a request confidently. Yet, we're taught to complain, whether it's through school, whether it is through, that's naturally what we as humans do, whether it is where, at the water cooler, we're at lunch, it's, and this can sound something like, Sarah didn't do this again, or, what, I can't believe, Jerry didn't know how to do this while we were out, on the job site today, or I can't believe my, accountant did this, right? Candy, you've never heard that one before. And so here's the mindset shift I love for your listeners to think about. Every complaint is just a poorly worded request.
That's very impactful, actually, if you think about it. And honestly, I would think a lot of people just feel that they don't really know how to communicate well. We've never been taught, unless you're really taking like a course in how to effectively, communicate as well too. We learn from growing up or our surroundings or things like that too. So not having been told how to properly request something, along with maybe fear of the person that you have to go to and ask, I think would probably impact that too. So I'd love to hear like your thoughts regarding that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, one of the things that, and I'm going to go through an example here in a second, but one of the things that we really, need to look at within our communication is what are the facts? So often we kind of take something and we wrap stories around it. And then we're complaining about a story, not necessarily what the facts are. So, we typically serve organizations in the human resources and leadership realm. So a common complaint I hear from the business owners we work with is no one wants to work anymore.
In this final clip, Valentina Escobar Gonzalez explains the types of information to post on social media platforms that you may be using for business. Is it okay to show personal details on a business account? Tune in to learn more about how to effectively use social media. I would love for you first maybe to even talk about what are some of the common mistakes that you do see businesses making, whether they're using Instagram or other platforms you want to discuss, and how do we avoid making those mistakes?
I'm so glad that you told us your journey from Facebook to LinkedIn. A lot of people think, okay, I have to have two separate lives. So with LinkedIn, it has about 200 million active users in the United States, and 50% of social media traffic from B2B, which is what your bread and butter is coming from LinkedIn. And 4 out of the 5 members are, on this platform are in charge of business decisions. So we're talking about 2 times the buying power. So you have your whole B2B audience. Then we talk about Instagram, where it's more informal. It's more about how can I get to know Candy? Not the person I'm going to run into in the downtown with the family members, but I want to see more about Candy. What drives her? What motivates her? What is she into? Does she have any community service project or some passion projects that she's involved with? So you might not be talking about these things on LinkedIn, and this is a great opportunity to talk about Instagram and how you are more than just what you're posting on LinkedIn. You are a human behind everything that you're doing. So Instagram gives that day-to-day, behind the scenes, better picture of what makes you Candy, what drives your business, how you are running your business. So LinkedIn might be like, here is an article that I wrote about XYZ, versus Instagram is, here's how I'm involved in the community. Here's how I'm helping others. Here's this podcast episode that I'm talking to with Valentina about Instagram and LinkedIn. So it's a little bit more behind the scenes. It's and what I love about Instagram is you can start following someone and you can comment with them, you can leave them mentions, you can tag them in a post, and it really creates these dialogues. I've met so many people on Instagram that we've become good friends and actually have become clients because it's so informal. It's such an easy, it's like going to a cocktail party where you just, oh yes, how nice to meet you. It's very informal versus LinkedIn. There's that structure behind it. If you don't know who that person is, you're not going to accept their connection request.
Thanks for tuning in to Biz Help For You. I hope you enjoyed looking back at some of the tips that have been shared in the last 50 episodes. I can hardly believe I've posted 500 shows, but I do it because of you. My passion is to help entrepreneurs succeed. Too many start businesses with a dream, and many of them don't come to fruition or last as long as they'd hope. I want to change that. And by interviewing experts who share tips from their industry and the answers I share to questions I receive, my hope is that you get the details that you can apply that will help improve your company. If you find the information that I share on the show helpful, would you leave a review and share it with others? And if you'd like to financially support the show, a link is in the show notes. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Thank you for tuning in today. Would you please share this episode with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? And if you find our show informative, would you consider being a financial sponsor to help me continue my mission to educate business owners? A link is located in the episode description, and no amount is too small. I'd really appreciate your support. If you are interested in connecting with our guest and receiving the offer they had to share, a link to our resource page is in the show notes. Finally, if you have any bookkeeping or payroll needs, reach out to us at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. My team and I are eager to assist you. Until next time, have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help For You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.